Hello and welcome to IMPACTability, the Nonprofit Leaders Podcast. This is a show that explores the landscape of the nonprofit organization, big and small, offers some incredibly helpful information and resources, and gives nonprofits a place to share ideas and get advice. Our show is sponsored by Sukup Strategic Solutions, offering a wide variety of services to help nonprofits maximize their impact. We're excited to bring you the stories and advice of leaders in the nonprofit sector to help you succeed in your nonprofit. So let's get started.
Welcome to IMPACTability, the Nonprofit Leaders Podcast. I'm Cheryl Sukup, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today, we are joined by an amazing, visionary nonprofit leader who is so passionate about her cause. She has poured her heart and her soul into this organization and its mission. I'm joined by Casey McGovern, the Executive Director of Every Child a Swimmer. Casey, thanks so much for joining me today as a guest on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for having me.
Well, let's start out by just learning a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the mission of the nonprofit organization that you're serving?
Of course. I started with Every Child a Swimmer program about 4 years, and it was at its inception in essence. The Every Child a Swimmer program has a very long history dating back to the 60s and Judge G. Harold Martin, which we can get into later in the interview. But I started with Every Child a Swimmer program in 2022 to create the infrastructure of our Learn to Swim scholarship program and also help advocate and implement our legislation that's passed throughout the country.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to get more into that as we go forward. You really have a dual mission, right? You have a mission to provide access to swimming lessons, but you also are creating change throughout the country through your advocacy work. So we'll get more into that later. All right. Well, I know a little bit about your background and your personal history. And, one thing that's so compelling is how people who get involved in nonprofits, how they get connected to the mission in the first place. What brings them on their journey into the nonprofit sector? So thinking back on your nonprofit journey, what got you started in nonprofit work to begin with?
Unfortunately, our family suffered a tragic loss, which set the course of my journey. On August 3rd, 2009, our 19-month-old daughter drowned in our backyard swimming pool, which then set the course of my journey. Upon leaving her after spending a week in the hospital, watching her fight for her life, we ultimately had to say goodbye to her. And upon saying goodbye, I made her a promise that I would do everything in my power to educate as many parents as I could about the issue. And so that's kind of how it went, as far as that goes. And I haven't stopped. I've just pivoted a lot throughout this journey.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. My personal situation too, and losing a child is one of the hardest things you can ever go through. But it's amazing the way that you've been able to take the love that you have for your daughter and pour that into helping children across our country be safer in the water. So I thank you for all that you're doing and the way that you have turned a tragedy in your life into something that can really help save so many children's lives in the future. Not only lives, but also, I've known so many families in my work with working with children with disabilities and their families whose children survived a near drowning. And while they're so blessed that their children are still with them, that is a huge impact on a child and a family to survive a near drowning. It doesn't go well for many of the kids. So you're doing something amazing for all of us across the country and the world. So thank you so much for the work that you do.
No, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to tell the story and be able to share the work that we do. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get more into it. So tell me a little bit about, we talked just briefly about how your mission has two main aspects to it. So talk a little bit more about that. How has your organization grown and changed over time? And how has that work impacted you as a leader as the organization has been growing and changing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our program has two folds, like you said. One is the Learn to Swim Scholarship Program, and one is the legislation. And the first component is creating the infrastructure of the Learn to Swim Scholarship Program that provides up to 3 months of swim lessons for any family that cannot afford it. And what we do is we work with swim schools throughout the country. They apply through our website, and they go through a very thorough vetting process to make sure that their mission aligns with our mission. And then at that point, what we do is we provide them a line of credit where they're able to serve X number of children throughout their community. Anybody that makes below a $50,000 annual income qualifies for one of our scholarships. And what we want to do is have the ability to get them to a safe space in and around the water. And so our swim schools are required to get them to a point where they can exit the water or be able to float on their own, and then we pay them after the fact. Part two is the awareness. And I think the awareness is really important, especially in my situation. I feel like I just didn't know. I felt like water safety isn't something that it's a priority or even talked about. It's a taboo topic, especially when it relates to drowning. I think that nobody wants to talk about child deaths and drowning as a whole. You know, it's when you hear about it or see it in the movies, it's the flailing of the arms and it's all these different things. And nobody really talks about it and how to prevent it. And so with our legislation, with the help of Dr. Bill Kent spearheading those efforts in 2021, we were able to pass a legislation in the state of Florida that requires all schools to share water safety information and where to go for local swim lessons. Since that passing, we've been able to have success in Florida, Georgia, Arkansas, Arizona, New Mexico, and New York. So our goal is to have every state adopt this legislation so that it's one consistent message throughout the year, hopefully multiple times a year. Just like fire safety is talked about in the month of October, we want our Every Child a Swimmer legislation to be talked about the same way. We all are ingrained, and it's ingrained in our brain that we have to know we have to have fire extinguishers. We have to replace the batteries in our smoke detectors annually. We know stop, drop, and roll. It's like ingrained in our brain because of an early age. However, nobody talks about water safety, and it claims more lives than that by far. And so our goal is to do the same thing with the Every Child Swimmer legislation.
Yeah, that's so great. All right, so you're talking about thousands of children that you've already reached. Tell me, like, what are your big picture long-term goals and vision for what you'd like to be able to accomplish during your time with the organization? You know, it's likely that this organization can continue going like many decades beyond your participation. But while you're here and you're able to be a part of this organization, leading it, what do you want to be able to accomplish? I know you said you want to raise a generation of swimmers, but is there anything really specific over the next several years or decade that you'd like to be able to say, look back and say, we accomplished that?
That is a tough question. There's a lot that I want to accomplish. I feel that reaching a zero drowning rate would be my ultimate dream come true. I don't know if we'll be able to achieve that, but that's my ultimate goal. And being able to meet those parents where they're at before the situation or the incident occurred, that's a big goal of mine. I want to be able to provide swim lessons to any child that may not have the means. And I think that that's going to be something that in time will come. And I want water safety to be talked about in pediatricians' office more frequently, in the school systems, and potentially even make it part of the curriculum into every school, because again, we have to normalize this conversation. Too many lives are being claimed. I mean, at this point, they say 4,000 individuals lose their life in the United States alone to drowning. And CDC reports that 8 times that have the non-fatal injury happen. But I don't even think that that's even telling the real picture. I don't think that we're tracking it to the point that we really could or should be. And I think it's a much larger number than that. And so my ultimate goal dream would be to make zero drownings happen. And if not, drastically reduce that rate and make the awareness and make the education a little bit more accessible and normalize it, is what my ultimate goal would be.
Yeah. Well, tell me, okay, great. And I mean, I think that's such an inspirational thing to strive towards, but it's so personal for you that, it's probably ingrained in, your very essence. So when times get tough and you're feeling like you're facing all of these barriers in your nonprofit, what are some of the things that you do to overcome that on a personal level? And then also, is there a big challenge that you have in your nonprofit leadership role right now that that you feel like you have to overcome? And what would that be, if so?
Wow, you asked some great questions.
Thanks.
I think that emotionally, because this work is so personal to me. Like, you mentioned
Yeah.
in the last question, when my time is up, I don't know if I'll ever stop. I think until my last breath,
Hmm.
I'll be doing this work, and I live it and
Hmm.
I breathe it. And it's my life. It's my driving
Yeah.
force. It's my purpose. I feel like this is why I was brought on this earth to do it. And I believe that that's why my
Hmm.
daughter was taken. It's just for me to be entrusted to do this work.
Hmm.
So when those days come, which they do come, August
Hmm.
3rd, her incident occurred 16 years ago. I think about the what ifs. I think about what she could have been or should have been. But because of a preventable injury, she's not here with us. And so there are
Hmm.
tough times. I spoke to a mother last week who just recently lost, and, she's 3 months into this journey.
Hmm.
And I'm 16 years into this journey.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like you have to have faith. You have to believe that you will see them again.
Hmm.
That's what I feel as far as that
Yep.
goes, is I strive to make a difference, and so that I can be able to see her one day.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I want to use my pain for a greater purpose, to always be able to help others. So when I
Hmm.
feel extra sad on those days, or just
Yeah.
tougher days, I tend to just pour myself more into the program and be able to reach out and do something as far as an active service to help somebody else. We've always went to the hospital where she spent her last week, and
Hmm.
we love the hospital and we love the staff there, and they were truly angels when we were going through that time, and they helped us when we could barely help ourselves. And
Yeah.
so giving back to that group of professionals that are impacted daily by these tragic deaths, and that also gives me fuel and passion. um, but as far as professionally, I think our obstacle is visibility. I think having
Hmm.
more people know that we're here. I have an incredible team, small but mighty team, and we're doing great work. And I just feel that our voice is not being heard as much as I
Hmm.
would like. So I feel like that's our probably biggest struggle is, guys, become ambassadors of ours. Start having those conversations, start normalizing this conversation, start sharing our social media component, and help speak our name and about our program in a room that potentially would help us. So I think that that's
Yeah.
probably our biggest obstacle professionally, is just growing this program organically from the bottom up,
Hmm.
and making sure that our integrity is never in question.
Yeah.
And so that's probably our biggest struggle.
Well, you have a pretty powerful group behind you too, right? So, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was brought on board to start the Every Child Swimmer program, it was just me with the leadership of Mike Dooley and Dr. Bill Kent, who's the chairman of the International Swimming Hall of Fame, which is our parent company. We're a program under the
Hmm.
umbrella of ISHOF.
Hmm.
And there was nothing. It was just, okay, we passed legislation, but nothing was being done as far as the implementation, and as far as the serving children and creating partners within the swim schools. We didn't have anything. And so we had to
Hmm.
really start from scratch and create this, and create what we expected our program to be, to create meaningful change, because we've always been based on creating meaningful change, creating a generation of swimmers, making an impact that's actually truly helping. And so
Hmm.
we were very strict on our guidelines and our processes and things like that. So over the first year and a half, it was just me. And we just were
Hmm.
kind of struggling along, doing what we were doing. One by one, we were growing the swim schools. And the first year, 2023, of our full year in working, we were able
Hmm.
to help 610 children, equating to about $150,000. So that was a huge leap. However,
Hmm.
right about that time is when it exploded, and we had an influx of swim schools wanting to partner with us. And we went from that 610 children to 3,000 plus children being served, equating to over $500,000. So it was a big growing pains. And so as I thought about my team, because I'm very protective of our program and it's very personal, I needed to have the right teammates in place. This isn't just a job that you're going to check in and check out at 9:00 and leave at 5:00. This is a mission, and it has to have a level of passion. And so I went to actually my sister, Carrie, and one of our best friends, Nicole, who walked the journey with us. She knew my daughter. She walked this journey for the last 16 years with us, and she had a passion for water safety and bringing about change as well. So I had a conversation with them, and I brought it to Dr. Bill Kent, and he supported it and blessed it, and they joined forces, and we have been a force to be reckoned with. And I'm really,
you sure are. You are. And I can't say enough great things about Carrie.
Yeah, I think we all bring our own strengths and our own skill set and our own little niche that we need to be able to make this program successful. And it is truly a team that I'm grateful for. And I know that we're going to accomplish great things together. So yes, Carrie is a tremendous blessing that has come alongside me, not only as a sister, but also as a colleague, really driven by change. And Nicole is the same thing, is a powerhouse behind the scenes. So I'm really, really thankful for the team that we've been able to build. And I know that we're going to accomplish great things together.
You already are. You already are, Casey. Well, tell me a little bit about what it's like to work with your sister and a close friend. Like, that has its joys, and of course, it's got to have its challenges too, because it always does. But tell me a little bit about that. And when things get tough amongst you, like, how do you work through it together?
That's another great question. I think it's just knowing each other's heart and knowing that it's this unconditional friendship and relationship that we're all driven. You know, it's just one of those things where they started at a part-time position and they're not doing it for a penny. They're not doing it for the money in any capacity. Obviously, they need to be compensated because it's taken away from their time. But we are all so motivated to make this program be the nonprofit or the Learn to Swim scholarship program that's going to be serving any child that needs this, the assistance. And I think that that's what's the driving force behind all of us. And the bantering and being able to just laugh about certain things. And, what we do when we go on our road trips, we tend to share hotel rooms together because it's a big sleepover. And, we talk all into all hours of the night to be able to just say, what went good today? What went bad? Where could we have improved? And sometimes there's a little bit of grouchiness, but it's the three of us kind of talking each other off the cliff and being able to really strategize to make the program be the best that it could be. So yeah, there's tough times, but I really don't think that, because it's unconditional. And at the meat and the foundation of everything, we know that there's love. And we all mean the best with what we're trying to accomplish together. So
that's so great.
It's funny though. You should be a fly on the wall sometimes.
I mean, I've seen you and your sister together, and it's just such a nice dynamic professionally that is really enhanced by your personal relationship. It's great to see. You guys work really well together. All right, now we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with you shortly.
One of the biggest challenges facing nonprofits today is securing grants. Where do I find information on grants? How do I write a grant? How do I submit the grant? And of course, the dreaded midnight deadlines. At Soup Up Strategic Solutions, we have a team of expert grant writers with years of experience writing hundreds of grants for nonprofits just like yours. Visit our website today at soupupstrategicsolutions.com and schedule a free consultation about your grant writing needs. That's SOUKUP strategicsolutions.com. Let's work together and to bring in grant funding to fuel your mission.
Welcome back. I'm with Casey McGovern, the Executive Director of Every Child a Swimmer. Casey, let's continue our conversation. Now I'm going to just kind of ask a different kind of question. What is one thing you wish you had known when you first began your involvement with nonprofits? Something you know today that you wish you knew when you started?
That's a great question too. Wow, you're good. What
Thanks.
is what is one thing that I wish I would have known before getting into nonprofit? That it's tough and
Hmm.
that you don't give up. My journey started out with I started a nonprofit immediately, personal nonprofit, when I first lost M. I was felt like this is what we were supposed to do, and I was going to open up a swimming facility myself and teach children to swim. On by myself. As far as
Hmm.
that family efforts. But it felt like I just kept hitting roadblocks. I just felt like everywhere I went, there was an obstacle, and so I just kept pivoting. And then a couple of years into it, I was part of this community and task force, and I heard about an opening with the Department of Health,
Hmm.
and so I applied for that position with really no experience in the Department of Health, government realm, but I went for
Hmm.
it. And I got that job, and I ran the drowning prevention program in Broward County for a little over 7 years. And what that
Hmm.
did was I think that helped me become better, stronger. I was healing through that process. I was
Yeah.
learning through that process, and really looking deep into the data to be able to create the change that we wanted to create and what we're doing with every child swimmer. So that journey with the Department of Health only helped me become a better leader in the nonprofit sector. Um,
Hmm.
it's about not giving up, connecting with the right partners, being able to, I don't know, like look at the data and create data so that more people would buy in. I don't know if that's the right answer necessarily, but it just helped me look at things differently.
Yeah,
But my
there's
main,
there's no
my,
and there's no right answer, right? I mean, every nonprofit professional's journey is different, and how you come to your leadership um, and acquire all the wisdom that you do along the way, that's just so different for every person. But it's funny. I like that you're talking about data, because that storytelling is so important, and different people respond to different things, and a blend of facts, statistics, data, outcomes, measurements, and
yeah,
stories, like real life stories. That's the secret sauce, being able to utilize both
right.
to get your message across and bring people along on the journey that you are walking. That's part of I would say a main ingredient to make your nonprofit successful and your leadership effective. So you have the personal story that is extremely moving, and a terrible tragedy, but the strength that you have um, shown and that you share with others is incredible. And then, that's very inspiring to people. And then being able to couple that with all of the data, that's, you know, I think that's the key.
Well, I appreciate that. When I look back at my journey and I think about who I was compared to who I am now, and again, it's not a brag session, but I was a
Hmm.
severe introvert. I am a severe introvert, and being able to
Really?
even
Oh my
call,
gosh, I would not know that about you.
yeah, yeah. So, it's like, yeah. I didn't have a voice of my own, and I just felt that I was. When I look back at who I was meek, but I was content. I was one of those people that to order pizza was difficult. I always made my husband do it or somebody else do it. To speak
Mhm.
in a group was just not my thing. I kind of just was there, but not really having a voice of my own. Um, but I knew that I made her a promise, and so I have faced every obstacle, and I continue to challenge myself in different environments so that I continue to grow, and I refuse to give up. I may fall a couple times, but I refuse to give up. And I think that that's the most important component is with a nonprofit is just don't give up. You may
Mhm.
have no's repeatedly, but just keep trying to figure out the solution. And when I was working with the Department of Health, that was like, it was my heart because I feel like that's how we're going to bring about real change is looking at that data. So I was
Yeah.
so data driven by everything and getting into every part of it and working with the medical examiner's office to really look at the problem. And I
Mhm.
feel that, and I know that's kind of a weird thing, but I feel like we have the secret sauce because of what we've created with Every Child a Swimmer. If
Mhm.
we continue on, if we get the assistance that we need to be able to continue to move this in the momentum that we're having, we can do this, and we can create a generation of swimmers by just doing what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's non-negotiable. We hold our swim schools accountable. We ensure that they're doing that. We're giving the access to swim lessons that are quality by quality instructors so that they're meaningful. The children go in and they fall in love with the water. And who knows what that opportunity will do for those kiddos too. It may open up so many other doors that they may never even think about because they were given the opportunity to learn how to swim. And so that excites me. That drives me. That just makes me work that much harder.
So many of us know the power of being in and on and around the water and how important that is to so many of us, particularly those of us in Florida. I mean, there are whole nonprofits around water, right? And water quality and being able to access the water. And so the well-being and benefits of being able to access water is in and of itself another great thing that you're bringing to the children of the next generation. So thank you for that too.
I think that brings up a good point though. It's just the access. If we can't get them to the water, at least we want to educate them on the risk factors, because although they may live in an area where they don't have pools and bodies of water throughout their neighborhood or their community, they may go on vacation and they may come in contact to the beach or to the ocean or on a cruise or anything like that. If they're not educated on the issue and the risk factors, they may become the next victim. I mean, obviously you see it on the news so often as far as the rip currents. All of these people vacationing in the coast of Florida and different areas, even up in the Northeast at this point, there's been tremendous amounts of rip current deaths. And again, it's just about education. And with our legislation, that's my ultimate goal is we can't reach everybody. There's not access to swim lessons absolutely everywhere, but at least we can do is educate them. And so I think it's really important. Florida has the number one, it's the number one state in the country with the amount of drownings we have. And so it needs to be the first sport that any parent gets their child into. And that's definitely something where we're pushing that message is just get them in swim lessons before anything else. Get them safe.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. One of the first things as soon as we moved to Florida, we were very fortunate that my in-laws had enrolled my two able-bodied children in swim lessons. My other daughter had special needs, and so we had her in the pool very, very early on, and because it was part of her therapy. But my other two kids had not learned how to swim when we first got here, and they were 2 and 4. So they immediately started with swim lessons, and my in-laws had a pool, so they wanted to make sure that my kids were safe in the pool and that they could grow up enjoying the water. So we were very fortunate, but swim lessons at the time, we couldn't afford swim lessons. So not everybody has the ability to have that access. And when I worked in Immokalee, Florida, it's a rural community and there's a lot of poverty. And a lot of the kids that we worked with, they had never been to the beach before. They had never learned to swim. There is a public swimming pool in the community, but that's it. There's very few swimming pools. Only the very wealthy in the community had access to a swimming pool. So other than that one pool, kids didn't really have a chance to get into the water. And there were a lot of alligators in that community. The local Lake Trafford was filled. You go out to that lake and you'll see hundreds of alligators. So not super safe. So anyway, just thinking back to the time we took them on a field trip to the beach, and we had to be so careful. A lot of the kids didn't know how to swim. So then we were like, oh, okay, we need to get them referred over for swimming lessons. So sometimes, when your own family has had access to something, it can be a surprise to realize that other people just don't have that same experience, that same access. So I think the scholarships that you provide are super important, because without them, a lot of kids just wouldn't be able to get the swim lessons. So education, so important, advocacy, so important, but being able to provide the scholarships, that's incredible. Now, to do that, you need to raise money, right? So raising money is such a challenge. What do you think is one of the things that has been helpful to you as you've been raising money for your program?
I think that the best thing that we could do is just be given the opportunity to tell our story and how we could do it. I think that, having somebody speak our name in a group of individuals that are decision makers and people that can help us move the needle forward. I think that that's the biggest ask that we can do. I'm not the best at having a call to action and asking for money. But in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve, we need a lot of money because our swim schools have the ability to serve children up to $500 threshold per child. So when you look at that, that's a pretty big piece if we want to reach hundreds of thousands of children throughout the United States. So $500 per child goes a long way because it gets them to a safe space and gets them to the basic ability. However, if we're going to reach tens of thousands of children each and every year, we need a lot of money to be able to achieve that. And just having the opportunity, having partners, having allies come and share a little bit about what we do and allow us to have that voice goes a long way. And so I think that what we need more than anything is just raising the bar, raising the visibility, letting people know about the issue, but also how we do it to create a generation of swimmers. I mean, I was told at one point that the numbers are just not big enough. And I said, until it's your child, it's not big enough. And when I look in the data, I don't even think we're looking at the full picture. I don't feel like we track or capture the amount of drownings that actually truly happen. I mean, they're staggering enough, but I don't even think we're looking at the true picture because it's not captured as accurately as it could be. And so our biggest ask would be, invite us to podcasts like this and let us tell our story and, let us be able to share the great work that we're doing.
That's great. Well, we're happy to do it. And I hope that all of our listeners are going to learn more about your organization by going to our show notes and then visiting your website and reaching out to you and seeing how you can partner. So, all right. So, thinking about some of the resources that have helped you, you're helping others by telling your story here today and sharing some of your lessons learned and wisdom. What are some of the things that you have found as good resources that have helped you in your nonprofit leadership role?
Networking, Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Clubs, just connecting and putting yourself out there, not being afraid to ask. And if there's an opportunity, take it, make it work somehow, some way, because, you never know what that would be. I used to go into presentations, or if I was asked at different points, I always walked away with saying, I need to at least have 2 contacts or takeaways to be able to follow up with and think about it in that context. But the resources is just reach out to your sphere of influence and then even one step beyond, and put yourself out into these environments that potentially could help you have a louder voice, is what I would say. It's just continue to challenge yourself and look for opportunities.
Did you do anything in particular to learn how to do public speaking? Because, I mean, you're very good at presenting and sharing your message. So what is what is the method that you use to go from being so introverted that it was hard to call for a pizza that today that you can do a podcast episode like this, or speak in front of a group of people at an event, or go and present at a community meeting? What helped you along the way with that? Other than sheer tenacity, strength of character,
just doing it. And, you're going to bomb at you're going to bomb and you're always going to be your worst critic, but just do it. If you're given an opportunity, prepare, get yourself prepared. I think that your content better than anybody else, and just prepare and just keep putting yourself in environments to do it and challenge yourself. I mean, I've done Toastmasters, I've done different futures groups, I've done different things, and definitely not an expert in the public speaking realm or in this realm even. But I always feel that leading with my heart, knowing the content, being educated on the topic and knowing my content. But speaking from the heart has always done better for me. And it may not seem as eloquent as other speakers, but nobody has to question, who I am, and I'm authentic, and sometimes that's bad, but I've done things that I've had scripts, I've done these notes. And the moment I start reading that, I'm like a robot. And I think just be yourself, just be yourself, be authentic, and just be prepared, is what I'd say, in practice. If you feel
good
really, really
advice.
intimidated, would be just practice it. But if you know your content, you speak from the heart. I mean, who can fault you for that?
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned a couple of characteristics that I know are so important for nonprofit leaders. Two of them are authenticity that you just talked about, and then also you talked earlier about tenacity and perseverance. What are some other characteristics that you think are really important in a nonprofit leader?
Well, passion, passion and purpose. You have to have a belief in your mission. I don't think that you can be an authentic leader if you don't have a passion for what you're doing. I don't think you'll ever succeed if you don't have that. And I think that not thinking you have it all together, I think pulling in team members and relying on them for their strengths and delegating. I think that that's really important because we all have so much to learn. None of us know everything. And so this may be my strong suit, but my team may have this and this, and so relying on the team that you put in place is what I would have to say. But just having a passion for the mission, having the right team that you can delegate and trust is another factor to be successful, and continue to learn. We're all here. We all can do better and be better. And that's what I would encourage any other nonprofit leader, is just to continue to craft your skills and in your topics and continue to challenge yourself.
Yeah, being a lifelong learner, that's what it's all about. If you could share one piece of advice with a nonprofit board member, what would it be? Somebody just starting out on a board.
Believing in the mission, I think, would be the only thing that I would ask of them, is, just be educated, so that if they're out there in the community, if a board member's out in the community, are they going to be educated enough to share the statistics, to share how things are done, to be able to then become ambassadors to share the work that you're doing? And so I think that all board members should go through some sort of a training of why do you want to be on the board, and what value are you going to bring? And because that's what all nonprofits need, is a board that's going to advocate for you and continue your message and be educated on the topic enough to push it forward and help generate the funds that we all desperately need.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean,
I don't know
think
if
it's
that right.
no, I think it's one of those things where it's so easy to say it. It seems so obvious, but in practice, working with boards can be really difficult. And I think there are lots of great ways to engage board members if they're really there for the right reason. And of course, sometimes board members have things come up in their life, just like nonprofit professionals do, and we can't give everything that we thought we were going to be able to give at the very beginning when we first got involved. But I think there are some important things that you can do as a board member to really dig in and participate and show your commitment to the organization. I think you have a responsibility to do that. But I think having a great executive director that can help facilitate that makes that a lot easier for board members. So is there anything this is my last question for you. Is there anything that you have found that has worked in your experience to engage your board members?
I think meeting regularly. I think that sharing the vision, sharing the success stories, sharing the data as far as what the outcomes are. I think that breaking it down to them and meeting with them regularly so that they can kind of see the growth of the overall organization and the nonprofit is important. I think for them to kind of be in real time with the growth and what we're doing together to achieve that ultimate goal, and for them to see the vision regularly so that they can understand, and also but also help the growth of the overall program. I mean, it takes work, especially when you're on a smaller side nonprofit. It takes everybody doing a little bit of something. So if your board is there actively seeing the steps you're taking to be able to grow and serve the community you're serving, the better outcome you'll be. It's like just this one big family in essence, and we all want to reach that common goal. And so I think that it's just important is sharing the goal and meeting regularly. And again, hearing from them as well as them hearing from us as far as how we can each help each other.
Sounds great. It's great tips. All right. Well, we've had a wonderful conversation today, Casey. Thank you so much for joining me today. Where can our listeners find you online and get more information?
Absolutely. Everybody can reach us by visiting everychildaswimmer.org. That's our website. My name is Casey, Casey, at everychildaswimmer.org. We're on social media. We're LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I encourage you all to follow us and see our day-to-day activities, doing a lot of great stuff, fun things to be able to reach out to the community. But yeah, follow us. And if something strikes you, please share it, because you never know what that one single message or post could mean to some of your viewers. But again, everychildaswimmer.org. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Cheryl.
Thank you so much, Casey. And thank you for all you do.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We love to hear from our listeners, so please reach out and let us know what you liked and what else you'd like to hear. You can find our email address and links to our social accounts in the show notes. If you enjoyed hearing from today's guest, we encourage you to reach out and connect with them. See the show notes for their contact information. To get more great content in your inbox each month, sign up for our newsletter at impactability.live. That's impactability.live. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. That way you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. Finally, we'd be grateful if you would give us a positive review or a rating so that your peers in the nonprofit industry can find us as well. From all of us at Impactability, thanks for listening, and thank you for all you do to make the world a better place